There it goes.
Almost live.
We are almost live. In a moment. All right, we are live. So tonight we are so excited to welcome. By the way, this is summer of 2020. 2020 has been quite a year. Yep. But in the summer of 2020, CV Tech Talk has decided to bring the best and the brightest to you virtually. So it's safe. And Adam and I are not social distancing, and it's okay because we're married. Yep. So I just want to be real clear about that if you guys are not aware. So yes, we have Jen Giffen on with us tonight, a sketchnoting queen. Yep. Jen, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about where you're from and why you love sketchnoting?
Sure. Thanks for having me, guys. My name is Jen Giffen. You might know me from the social medias as Virtual GIF. That is my handle on pretty much everywhere I go. In fact, I think sometimes people don't know my names because they're like, Virtual GIF. And I'm like, I don't think they know my name is Jen, but that's okay. I am coming to you from just north of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So you'll hear the odd time, I find, especially when I'm talking to my California friends, I hear the twang in my voice, my little boots every now and then. And I will definitely say a few times because, you know, that's what I do. I am a teacher librarian, a former tech coach, you could say. I was a digital literacy consultant for my board. I work in quite a large board. It's the second largest in Ontario. So we have 140,000 students and I think 12,000 staff. It's big stuff. So I was a coach sort of role in that for 3 years. And before that, I call myself a recovered high school English teacher. I also did math and special ed. And yeah, I've always sort of been involved in the tech side of things. I've always been involved in helping kids who are at risk. I myself have a learning disability. I have a mild form of dyslexia. So for me and my son, when he was diagnosed with ADHD a couple of years ago, they said, you know, it is genetic. And everyone in the room turned and looked at me and I was like, well, what? I don't get it. So I was like, yeah, maybe the apple doesn't fall far from that tree. So for me, for sketchnoting, it came through about 4 years ago. It was the summer of 2016. I was reading a book called, and now I'm going to forget it, A More Beautiful Question. And I thought, you know, this is really good stuff, but I want to retain it. And I'm a listener. So I had 3 boys in 2 years. It's very, very busy. And I've been part of a book club for 20 some odd years. And like I said, English teacher. And I thought, I need to remember this, but how am I going to do it? And I thought, you know what I should do? I should like try to like write like the sketchnoting thing that I keep seeing on social media. And that Sylvia Duckworth lady has some like things that she does about this and this. Yeah, exactly. Who's that? She's now a good friend. But yeah, so I was like, I'm just going to try this. And it was really, really accepted in my position. And we were doing my big sort of, I had 2 sort of forays moments. One was, I was in a staff meeting and we do a lot of work around with the Indigenous people of Canada. And we're doing work with the Truth and Reconciliation, right? And the fact that some really atrocious things have been done to Indigenous people here in our country. And I thought, I can't sit like I normally do and multitask in this. I need to retain a lot of this information. I need to be present. And how can I do that? And because I'm so easily distracted, like, oh, squirrel. I thought maybe I'm going to try sketchnoting right here. Because there were a few people in, like a principal and one of our coordinators on our team. We did it. And so I'm sitting in this room, probably about 100 of us. And I'm like, I'm just going to start sketching. And I did. I drew this sketch and I was amazed at how much I remembered. And that night I brought it home and I put it on our kitchen table. And my husband was like, what's this about? And I was like, oh, it's my staff meeting notes. And once the kids went to bed later that night, because you guys have kids, you get it, you're not allowed to talk when kids are awake. We had this like 45-minute discussion about truth and reconciliation and what that means and what I learned. And that would never have happened otherwise. So I thought, wow, there's a lot of power in this. So I thought, I really want to up my game. And that winter, Matt Miller, the great Matt Miller, we love him. He was doing his first ditch summit. And I thought, I'm gonna really try my hand at this. I'm going to dedicate like an hour a day to do this learning and to advance my skill. And I did. And when we got to the end of the 9 days, I looked back at my first sketch and I was like, I can do so much better. And I was amazed at just practicing like an hour or 2 every day, which I know sounds like a lot of time to carve out. But if you're watching these, you know, videos, that's how long they take. And I was pausing. I was able to really like go somewhere. And I realized like I could really retain and I really loved it. I found it relaxing. I was doing an analog at the time. So it took me off my devices. So for my mental health, it was great. And I've just really never turned back. I went analog about a year ago. I presented on it at conferences by myself and with other sketchnoters like Sylvia Duckworth. it's opened a lot of doors to me to meet a lot of my mentors, a lot of people I've really admired, because as soon as you sketch for someone, they're like, oh, this is awesome, right?
Oh yeah.
It's
It's
a
an
nice
honor.
feeling. Yeah, it's a nice feeling to have someone. You know, Adam, I saw stuff that you were putting out from your students, and I was like, wow, this could be really great. And so I developed some modules for my district, and I would sort of go into schools and help students and help teachers do it. And I now do a course. I'm about to start my second cohort for my Learn to Sketchnote. It's a 6-week course that I run, mostly self-directed. We build the community on Google Classroom so that if you need that sort of, you know, push to be like, okay, there's some accountability. People want you to post. People are relying on you, but we have a bunch of people who just did it on their own, or were like, I can't do it now because, you know, the pandemic hit and they put it on hold. In fact, for most people, I invited them back if they wanted to do it with some accountability. But we launched that on July the 4th. So just over a week from now. I'm really excited. There's I have probably a couple dozen people in there already, sort of eager to learn. And so it's a really cool opportunity, and it's something I really love to do.
Yeah, when someone sketchnotes, you know, your session, that's a huge honor. It was a huge thrill when it was where was it? ISTE 2017 in San Antonio.
Yes.
When I presented in the Google Teaching Theater, and they had a professional sketcher right there doing everyone's session. So that they
Live,
gave me this big giant poster with the sketch of, to see my ideas through someone else's eyes was just awesome. And you know, keeping that poster, I think they did it again in Chicago as well. It was definitely, that was a treasure to bring home.
Yeah, they're nice, and it's a real good connection to have with someone as well, right? And one thing I love is I always have people when I'm sketching look over my shoulders, and they're like, especially when I'm doing an analog and I have like all my markers around, and I like make this whole little, you know, I set up camp, so to speak, and people come over like, oh, what are you doing? And I inevitably have a spot that I can't get to, right? That happens, and people start, they're like, oh, I don't have the skills and I can't do it, and they kind of, you know, get all nervous, and I'm like, no, here's the thing. Like, don't worry about it. These are your notes. You don't have perfect handwriting, and you probably take notes as you're watching something. You maybe like have typos when you're typing. It's the same idea. These are for you. But I really love when I have a space that I haven't filled, because then I can turn to someone. Usually I find another sketchnoter or someone who's interested in what I've been sketching, and be like, okay, don't look. Tell me what you took from this session. And sometimes when I'm drawing, I miss something. And then you can have that, ask them, like, what did you take? And it reinforces their learning. It really helps you see maybe from someone else's lens. It builds those connections. And yeah, there's just so much good that every time I do it, and every time I talk about it, I think of something else. I'm like, oh yeah, then there's this. Like, it's just, and you really don't need, to have a lot of skill. Like I see that Morgan Privet right now has posted on Instagram. I have on Twitter, I have my tweet deck open here, that totally a visual learner. But yeah, like absolutely, there's so much to it visually. That's how I am. I remember things that I've sketched because I'm like, oh yeah, there was that. I did the picture of that globe and it's up in that corner and that's where it is. And there's science behind that, right? Like if you want your students to remember things in class, you probably have a certain area that you stand all the time. And if you are saying something pivotal, move to another area in the classroom. And when students are doing any kind of assessment or whatever, I say, remember, I was standing in that area. Does that like bring it back to you in any way? And having just even that visual of you standing somewhere. So imagine now if they're creating the visual on their page. One thing I say to teachers all the time is, if you have a doodler, that's awesome. Tell them to just doodle in the margins keywords that they hear. If you're talking about, oh yeah, then there's this world issue, have them doodle a little globe, because then what those doodles become down the margins are just a summary of the notes that they've taken, so they can quickly find information they might be seeking when they're going over to review it for whatever purpose that review is.
Yeah, we see where I work, we're a huge AVID district. We're a national demonstration school. AVID is part of our DNA, and one of the recurring themes with AVID, especially with the whole focused note-taking process, is revising notes. So when I heard them kind of really pushing the revision of notes, I'm like, well, for me, Sketchnotes is the ultimate revision of my notes. If I take notes in the margin or in a notebook via text, I go back and I look at it and I turn it into a sketch note. There's so many things going on in your brain to transfer it to that of a sketch note. But that's been a huge push of mine. So my kids will take a lot of times notes on text first, and then they jump into the sketch note. So for me, that's like the ultimate revision, and really kind of staying in line with our push for AVID. So yeah, it's so many ways to.
I totally agree with you, Adam, because that revision helps. And there's a lot of people that do the two-step, right? They look at, okay, I've written these notes out. I can't do it live. There's no way. So instead they go through and they, they write all their notes out and then they turn into a sketch afterwards as a way to review. And I think it's so beneficial. I did a day of sketchnoting at school this year where I had 2 to 4 classes in our Learning Commons come down, and I just did my 1 hour learn to sketchnote. And a few days later, and it was right before sort of we were going into the big push before final exams for our first semester. And I saw this girl sitting in one of our study carrels doing sketchnoting, and they were beautiful. And I thought for sure she had done it before. And I thought, yeah, I'm like, this is so great. And she's like, it's like, have you done this? She goes, well, no, I came down to the session. My teacher brought me. I'm like, yeah, I remember you being there. And she's like, no, I've never done it, but I really think this is going to help me remember things for my next history test. And I thought, this is exactly like, even to reach. I always say that every time I've done any kind of sketchnoting, especially with students, there's always 10% in that. So if I'm in a group of 30, there are 3 kids who either they themselves reach out to me afterwards or their teachers say, you have changed the way this kid is moving forward. And if you like 10%, that's a huge number for change. Pivotal change. And for some, I always start by saying, for some of you, this is not going to be your thing. This is not how you think, and that's okay. We don't all have to do this. You might really like it. You might get better. You might use it in some circumstances and not the other. But for some of you, this is going to be changing and altering the way that you learn. Because you are visual, or you are very like, it's not only visual, right? It's very tactile. It's very kinesthetic. Like that drawing of something, like, there's the 2014 study by Oppenheimer about the fact that people who take longhand notes outperform those who take notes on a laptop. Like there is something about physically putting pen to paper, or stylus to, to tablet and drawing things out to help us remember it. That muscle memory just goes straight to our brains.
Yeah, I love that. We have Daniel Rocha actually watching on Facebook, and he is a math guy, right? So I know he's talked a lot about visual mathematics and such, but can you imagine trying to do math without writing out formulas and without drawing? I mean, I can't even imagine. And so even as we're all ed tech people, right? I mean, we're big, we love technology, the 3 of us, Adam and Jen and I, and yet we love sketchnoting because we know it's so important. So where does, I know what our answers would be, but Jen, where does technology fit in with sketchnoting? Because we all do believe in the analog as well.
Yeah, I think that it fits in your personal preference. Like for my first 2.5, almost 3 years, I was completely analog. Like I probably do. It's right here. I have all my old, like this was my kit. Like this is what I walked around with. It is an Indigo bag. Indigo is our Barnes and Noble here in Canada. And I had this, like this was what I carried around. Wow. It was all markers. It sort of came out and I would just lay it out there. For me, I always had my iPad or my phone at the ready with the Noun project queued up, because I'm not someone who can say, okay, draw a squirrel. And I don't know what a squirrel looks like. I panic and then I draw like a giraffe or something because it doesn't look right. I just can't visualize it the same way. So I use that and I'm like, okay, here we go. And I lay these out and I'd have that. So for me, like I needed the Noun project. That was my only technology. Now, in tech world, I'm like, okay, I use my tablet and I can bring things in. But I also think there's benefits to even using something like auto draw, Google's auto draw, that you take a note, or you can type up your notes and then start drawing like a cat. And you're like, okay, that doesn't really look like a cat. And then, they have their auto draw feature where then you tap the little cat that's at the top and you can bring it in. So if you're not very techy, if you're not very artistic, or what you think is artistic, because if you know it's a cat, then it's a cat. So who cares? Like all my dogs look like little sheep and I'm okay with that. But you can really do a lot of great stuff with tools like that. And there's more and more coming out as well. And some for the Chromebooks, especially now that they're touchscreen, that you can draw on. Even something like Google Keep, actually, you have a drawing feature. I've seen people sketch a little bit there. You can also do things like take a screenshot. So let's say someone shares a presentation with you. I love Notability. I love the Notability app. It's one of my favorites. So if I'm at a conference, I often bring out my iPad. I'll download the slide deck that's been shared into Notability, and then you can go through and you can sketch note over top of those slides. So you have their ideas there that they're sharing, and depending on how, text heavy they are, but then you can put your ideas around it. And I know Haley Roberts, she's in California. She's an expat from the UK, and I interview her in the course. I have pro tips every week, one or two of them, and I interview different sketchnoters and just say, okay, for people just starting out, what would you suggest? And that's one of her big tips. She's like, this is how I started. I didn't know this was a thing. So I just, it was like annotating images at first with some words, and then it grew from there. So those are some ways just off the top of my head that I would use it. How about you guys?
Good.
Oh yeah, so I also use Google Keep with kids, because I love the fact that the sidebar, like the kids can make a sketch and then like drag it over, because I feel like I found that images spark the writing process. I mean, you taught English. How many times did you have kids say, I don't know what to write? I don't know what to write, but they can see something in their brain. And so if they draw it in Keep, now they have the sidebar, they can drag their image and then they can type and write. So that's something that I've used, that especially with young kids, that's been pretty effective. How about you, Adam, as far as the tech part? Like, I know you like your site. How about your site?
Yeah, well, the tech comes in when I scan them, put them on the site, and it's curated as a gallery that can be referred to. So all the ones that have been done in the last couple of years, when we get to a new unit, kids this coming year can go to that gallery and now kind of preview what the kids learned last year. My favorite use was a teacher I was coaching. She was getting ready she wanted me to help her with brainstorm an idea for an evaluation. And she's like, you know what? We're supposed to be doing a lot of academic conversations. So she came up with the idea completely on her own that what we're going to do, we're going to use Screencastify, we're going to use the Sketchnotes gallery, and the kids have to then choose a sketchnote that was not their own. And then they have to talk with their partner and record it on Screencastify for at least 2 minutes. Their partner has to ask clarifying questions to make them talk for at least 2 minutes, explaining it was a science class, the process of what they were studying. And it was a recorded, so they would turn in the recording as evidence of their conversation, because if you try to do it where, okay, one pair at a time, you'll never get through that in a class period. But here, they're all done halfway through. And the teacher then could leave feedback and have them, it was an amazing idea that she came up with, and I've been rocking that ever since. She doesn't work with us anymore. Unfortunately, she moved on to a school closer to home, but yeah, it just blew my mind. That was a huge coaching win right there. She came up with that on her own.
I really love that, because, and that's sort of speaks to when I said, okay, if I have a spot missing, I can go to someone else and say, okay, well, what do you see there? And that's one thing that I really tell people: share your sketch notes, even if you don't think they're good, share them far and wide, because like on social media, they say you get something like 339% more interaction if you have an image.
Right.
So you share that sketch note out, you're going to get ideas and be able to banter back and forth with someone with those ideas. I've also, I have a friend in Ottawa up here in Canada who has used sketchnoting as part of the restorative process for students. He's an administrator at a K-6 school. And when students come down and they've been sent to the office for whatever reason, rather than taking notes because they're young, he'll sit and he'll just start sketchnoting the process of, okay, well, what happened in class and what can we do better? And sort of draws like a little cycle for them to say, okay, this was the problem and here's our solution to get it better. And at first the kids, instead of just seeing like someone behind a computer typing or writing notes about them, it sort of opens it up, and then he invites them, he'll pass a pencil over and be like, do you want to add to this? And they collaboratively come up with this like sketch of how to do better next time. And I think that's such a beautiful way to show students how to learn from our mistakes and different ways to do that learning.
Wow, I love that. Well, and what I love too, like you're talking about young students that struggle with reading and writing, for example, because of the developmental level. But, I really feel like allowing kids the choice to add sketches or to sketch note, perhaps even in lieu of writing, you're honoring that student's strengths. You're saying, I know that you can show that you learned something, even if you have a disability that it makes it difficult for you to type it out or whatever it may be, or to write it with text. So I just feel like Sketchnotes really honors strengths, so I love that part.
It's great for English learners too.
Oh,
because, my ELs they can draw out what they know much better than they can write or even speak it.
Yeah.
Of
So
course.
I mean,
Vocabulary,
it's huge
yeah.
for that. Like, but when I do my sketchnoting sessions, I always refer to the same one every time. For the first group of sketchnotes I ever did with students, it was sixth graders learning about the Roman Empire, and they talked about a war where elephants were used as tanks. That's the analogy the teacher made, and virtually every sketchnote that the kids did in that class it was just a simple drawing of an elephant, some were better than others, with an equal sign and a poorly drawn tank. But right there, that important concept, I tell everyone, is now tattooed in their brain. They could have they could have written it down as text and hopefully memorize it long enough to remember to put A, B, C, or D on a test. But they did not forget that concept again. I met with those kids years later and I asked them about that. They're like, and they remembered it. And then I pulled up those sketchbooks on the website. They're like, and then they're all jazzed to see their work on there. But for ELs, man, it's massive.
Hey, Laura Voschel is watching on Facebook.
Right.
She says hi, and she works with a large population of ELs. Amazing advocate for English learners, and she is in our Central Valley as well. So hi, Laura. We are talking about sketchnoting, and I know she'll be all on board about this in Erlenmark. So welcome. We've got Jen Giffen from near Toronto with us, sketchnoting guru. So thanks for being with us, Laura. Amanda just joined us from South Carolina.
Yep.
Elementary music.
Oh, that's all you, babe.
Oh, you could do a lot with music. Okay,
yeah.
so I have to tell a story about my mom, who's not like incredibly techie, but loves art and was a elementary music teacher since this came up. And so this was before we all knew anything about like sketchnoting per se. So, and this is hopefully to give Amanda or other music teachers an idea. So what she did was she had the kids listen to music and then draw what they were feeling and what they thought of as the music was happening. And then, well, this part's kind of techy actually. She put together, like, she had the images go through and made a video of their work with the music as the background. So their sketches were like on a VHS. I think it was VHS back in the day. And the kids were super excited because they felt like their drawings, their sketches were part of like a music video of music. So it was a pretty cool thing. But that's kind of like what you're saying, Adam, as far as putting them on a Google site. Like if kids feel like this is going to be seen by not just my teacher, that's going to be a big deal for them.
Well, yeah, that authentic audience really does matter, right? When we're producing something, if I know it's going to be seen just by one person, I'm going to put in a different level of effort than if I'm presenting it somewhere.
Right.
Amanda just actually wrote that she's not much of a doodler because she's bad at art, which is fine because it's about ideas, not art. And that's Mike Rohde, who is the king, the godfather, if you will, of sketchnoting. He actually coined the term. And I actually, on a whim, reached out to him when I was developing my course and for my pro tips. I'm like, I wonder if he would let me interview him. And he did. And I was like totally fangirling the whole time. I was like, you have no idea how honored I am right now. But he has one of the best books. Anyway, his whole thing is about ideas, not art. And one thing I'm actually just typing here back on Twitter is that Julie Woodard, who's a phenomenal sketchnoter, she's probably one of my favorites, does a whole bunch of her sketches have very, very, very few doodles at all. It's mostly containers and arrows, and hers are all about color, and they're just so visually appealing. And it can be that too. Like I remember being in high school and having like the agenda books, remember, that we probably still have some for some of our students,
right? Yes,
before I was really digital, and I would put everything in different colors, like tests were in one color, after school activities were another, and to help me visualize it and remember. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with not having a ton of doodles. You don't need that. It's what makes sense to you. And if colors and shapes are your jam, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I tell whenever I teach my kids, I teach teachers about sketchnoting. I said the best sketchnotes I've ever seen are stick figures. Art skills are not required. I tell you, if you got the skills, get down, show off. But don't worry. Every sketchnote I do when I demo for kids, always stick figures. Or we're not here judging your art. We're judging how you represent the content the ideas. So it's that's usually the biggest hurdle that people have when it comes to sketchnoting. They're afraid, oh, so-and-so is good at drawing. I'm not. I'm like, I don't care. And once they get over that, that's when the sketch notes become pretty amazing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And you don't, like, if I go back through to, I have my, like some of my original sketches, I look at them now and I'm like, oh, and I actually share out when I do a presentation for all, like from the very beginning. And this is like literally, that was the book, The More Beautiful Question. Like,
Okay.
see that? No, I can't do it upside down here. See that? That's a foot. That's a foot.
Okay.
Do you know it's a foot? Probably not. Do I know? Yep. And I remember exactly what that's about. It starts out with this guy who is in a boat and he has this water skiing accident and his foot gets cut off and he gets a prosthetic foot. And he's like, this is no good. I'm super athletic and I can't do anything in this. And he goes through and he helps design what is now the new prosthetic. But I know that from my, my silly little, you can see him there. He's like a little water skier. And, but then I go, and the more you practice, the better I sort of got at it. And I don't by any stretch think I've ever felt like I was an artist until I started doing things like I did doodle a day, which is like just one little doodle every day. You take 10 seconds to do it, or you could take some time. And I just really enjoyed the process of it. And it powered me down and I found my Zen. I'm not much of a yogi, but I like to doodle. And this is something that I came to when I was almost 40 years old. So it was after doing that I sat with a friend who was running it on Twitter. Royan Lee is his name. He's a Canadian educator in my district. And I said, Royan, for the first time in my life, like a couple of days ago, I referred to myself as an artist. And sometimes it takes a little bit of that. I really stepped out of my comfort zone, but there are connections that I've made just by sharing this. And like I said, doing some and then sharing them with people that they remember, right? It makes an impact on people because it's not just writing down their words. There's sort of that like extra something for both of you when you do that. And then eventually I filled up like, I don't know, a whole bunch of books with just different sketches. And now I have, folders upon folders in my, on my iPad. But it's just,
love it.
And I do find too when I'm stressed, and I think you find that with students, if they're really angsty, if you ask them to sit down instead of notes, like, okay, put some pictures in here. I think you're going to see a lot of, there's like the SEL
yes.
It folds into it as well, right? That whole idea of, okay, let's like have some social emotional learning. Let's think about people's mental wellness. And there's just something really lovely about art, be it good art or not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the research shows that as when people are stressed, when kids are really, there's a lot more anxiety now than there was before because our world has changed and all of a sudden there are all these things that were not expected in our world. And so there's research that shows that allowing kids to have some creative expression really helps them to calm down and to kind of de-stress. So yeah, I think sketchnoting is a great way to allow that. Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
So question 4 just dropped. Says having your own doodle library is key for quick sketch notes. What 3 items do you think are key to be able to sketch out quickly?
I think we repeated that one.
Did you repeat it?
Did I do that?
Did you mess it up?
I might have.
Did you have a Twitter fail, Adam? You did. Oh no. Well, what was question 4 supposed to be?
That is question 4.
You mixed. Then you skipped question 3, maybe.
Question 3 is, what advice would you give to someone who's reticent to start, who has started sketchnoting? Mine is like
that out as 4.
Yeah.
The Twitter save now.
Twitter save.
That's okay. I always tell people pull a page from the Book of Elsa and let it go. Just let it go.
Oh, nice.
Go. That's it. You just rip that page out and go with it. Because really, I remember once doing this, I was in the middle of a sketch and I was so proud of it. And then I went to draw this bear, someone talking about your fight or flight. Right? And I was like, okay. They gave an analogy about, okay, you run across a bear. And then I got to the bottom of the bear and I drew the bear's feet, and the bear had frog feet. Full out webbed frog feet. And I was like, this is not good. So I just drew a log in front of the bear, and guess what? Now the bear is hiding behind a log. And
there you go.
That's what you sort of have to realize that. And you don't need to be an artist is the big thing. Cause like I said, you saw the foot, you saw my, little, very simple water skiing guy there. You don't have to be there, and it comes with time and having, like question 4 says, the things that you're drawing a lot and doing those sketches. So in the course that I run, we do doodles every day. It runs through Google Classroom, and in the morning I post, or I have them scheduled out to go and say, okay, today try to draw this. And sometimes people just draw one, like a globe. And I had in the first cohort, I had this very talented woman named Annette Laflay. Lefebvre, and she would always take whatever we were doing. So if I said something about the world, she would find a quote about the world, write quotes, because she had beautiful like penmanship. Her lettering was amazing. And then she would draw some globes around it. So for her, she was like, no, I just really like doodling, and I carve, half an hour a day to do this for my mental wellness. Like she goes, some people go to the gym. This is what I wanted to do now.
Sure.
But yeah, there's certain things that I draw all the time. Certainly, like globes are a big one that I draw a lot. I draw certain arrows and banners are things that I draw a lot. What other ones do I do? People are hard, but I'm slowly getting there with people. I also find just going on to like just Googling like doodles, like icon doodles, and then sitting when I'm watching a movie, because God forbid I do one thing at a time. I sit and I'll just like doodle those to try to get better. And then I have this whole little like, dictionary. And Sylvia Duckworth and I at ISTE last year did a whole presentation about it. Like, here's 100 things you can draw really quickly that we find that we draw a lot, like flags, we draw a lot of. We draw a lot of, sort of teachery things, like things that we talk about. I draw a lot of scales for justice or, equity and that sort of thing.
Hey, by the way, Ann Cosma is here and says hi. Love me some Ann Cosma.
I don't know if you know this, but I'm her mom.
Oh, she did say hi, Mom. And I was like, okay.
She's talking to me.
Awesome.
Yeah, we are now gone completely, beyond North America now. We're in Central America because we have our good friend from Honduras, Kendi.
Nice.
That I've known for years.
Nice.
We were both like the co-best men in a friend's wedding back in Honduras. We have Canada, Honduras, and the United States representing tonight.
Represent.
And which, that's pretty good right now, because I think people are so just kind of burnt out and tired right now.
Yeah.
That we've noticed that, there's kind of been a dip, which I totally get. But what I love about the fact that we're putting this all on Facebook Live is it's going to be on our website. It's going to be on the YouTube channel, so people can watch it later. So if they see sketch notes, that looks really cool, then they can go on. And so those of you that are watching in maybe 2021,
that's right.
They're watching, and they knew what we didn't know. What happened the rest of 2020. Based on the first half of 2020, I hope things get better, but the people watching in the future know. So
that's awesome. I will tell you,
hey,
you had a long time to sit and draw.
Yeah, really. Hey, Brian Costello's here as well now.
Yeah,
he just ordered that hat, he says.
All right. I got it on, Brian, if you're watching, I got this on fanatics.com. They had a huge Father's Day sale, 65% off, plus free shipping, site-wide. I'm treating myself.
Nice.
So I got the shirt and the hat.
Very cool.
If Ann Cosma's still there, she'll be happy to know I'm wearing my Student Voice Flipgrid shirt.
Oh, yes.
I've been wanting to get one of those shirts for years. And
oh my gosh, this is one I wear it once a week. I love it. It's so comfy.
She can look it up. I think she might have forgot about me, but
we can
I need a bugger. I need to be the squeaky wheel. I've been dying.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, Jordan's here right now.
Oh, speaking of the devil.
Yay!
Oh, Jordan, where's Adam's shirt? Represent.
I love it. That's cool.
I need a shirt.
No worries. Yeah, things have slowed down a lot of with all the Corona and other such things. So awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jen.
Of course.
I know it's late where you are, so I know you're probably wanting to kind of turn in and have some relax.
I'm gonna grab my book. I'm gonna go read.
Love it.
Hit the hay.
Relax. We forgot to say what we're drinking tonight. We always forget. We've been forgetting lately.
Yes.
So tonight we are drinking a 2011 Syrah from Red Hat Vineyards, which is produced by Four Sisters Ranch out in Paso Robles. It's we discovered this winery by accident one time. It was 4:55. We're like, can we hit one more winery? So there, we saw the driveway, we sped up it, and we're like, wow, great deal. Twice we've gone there. Twice we walk out carrying a case of wine. This is one that they had on sale that was like pretty much $7 a bottle for a $7 bottle of wine. This is amazing. We're all about finding that value, and it's a 9-year-old bottle of wine, so it's aged very well. So we're proud to have some local wine.
And we always have a reason that we choose the wine we have. So this time, this is the bottle that looked like it had the most of maybe kind of a sketch. of any of the labels we saw in our collection here. So this is not our collection behind us.
I wish.
That's our goal. We would love that,
Yes.
but that's a green screen.
Our next
behind
house will
us.
have
Yeah.
we'll have the cellar, the real
Nice.
cellar, like grotto.
Yeah, we call the closet that we put our wine in, we call it the cellar, like trying to act cool, but it's just a
That works.
Let's
It's your
be
cellar.
Room.
So
All right.
cool. Well, thanks so much for being with
Great to
us.
see you again.
Yeah.
Good to see you guys
Hopefully we'll
too.
see
It's
you
been
in
a while.
November.
Anything
Hopefully,
else?
fingers crossed.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Anything you want to leave us with before we turn off the Facebook Live?
I would say if you're looking at starting sketchnoting, just give it a go. If you want some accountability, you're more than welcome to hop on over to todayisketchnoted.com. That's the site where I'm running all the information about my course, and that's where you can register as well. It's not something that you need to do. I started it thanks to Andrew Fenstermaker, a friend of mine from my Google Innovator days. And Andrew was like, I think that people would buy into this. I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of saturated. There's a lot of books and this. And we had about 120 people, I think, were registered in our first cohort together. And it was a really, really fun time. Like, it was really beautiful to see because, everyone was like sharing stuff on social media, and it's the analytics of social media are such that what you post about, you see. So all of a sudden for like 6 weeks, I was flooded with beautiful artwork in Twitter, and it took away, a lot of the politics we might see in education. And it was right sort of week 3 was when the pandemic really hit, and we all sort of mid-March locked down. So if you're looking to have some accountability, it's certainly there. If not, reach out. I'm on Twitter at Virtual GIF, and I'd be happy to share a list of resources of books and such that I found really helpful in my own journey of people that I know who have written them, and other people that I hope to know one day. But I just think it's really great for us to do and model for our students, and it's really great to have our students involved in it as well.
Yeah, one thing I want to send your way, Jen. I started about a year ago. I didn't really publicize it much, but I started a Facebook group called Edu Sketchnotes Gallery. And slowly but surely, it's been picking up steam. But go ahead and search that, and if you get any good student examples, throw them in there, and let's spread the word. And it's kind of a Facebook version of my website. I'm trying to.
Awesome.
I don't post on it as much as I should, but definitely I'm gonna take this summer to create some galleries on there, so we have just another platform to show off some amazing student work.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jen. And you also have Familia Blanco on Facebook says, thank you, and looking forward to trying this with students in the coming year. So you inspired someone.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's great.
All right, we're going to stop the live stream. So goodbye, Facebook peeps.
Be well.